Good morning. Welcome again to another edition of Let's Talk Ed with Professor Chris. Please, if you haven't subscribed, please do so. Today's edition is very, very special. First interview I did was actually with a student management, and they said students spend more money on food in college than anything else, and I was very surprised. So we're here today to save you some money, but before I do that, I need to read this out since I haven't memorized this. First, students do spend more money on food than anything else through their college career. That's a fact. The average cost of food per month for a college student is $547. College students spend more on an average $341 a month eating off campus. Meals cooked at home average about $206 a month when the cost of eating off campus is included. A campus meal averages $563 a month. Not from me, this is from the Education Data Initiative. Our special guest today says she has a plan that should be enough to feed one college student 3 meals a day for an entire week for around $75. I have spent $75 at one sitting at a dinner, so that is very impressive. When you consider that the average fast food combo costs between $4 and $7, and that is more of your fast food and maybe pizza, that is roughly $40 a week savings at minimum. And bonus, energy, brain power, and mood should be much better eating this way than your fast food all the time. This is a direct quote from our guest today, and a nutritionist, Miss Wendy Pedraza.
Thank you. Happy to be here. I love that introduction.
Thank you. So usually what I like to do is just start with a little bit background about yourself.
Okay.
Tell me a little bit about your college life. Were you eating healthy?
I was not. And I just want to say at the outset that I think there needs to be some balance there, that, it's not all about healthy eating. I think college and really life in general is about balance, and there's time for sort of indulgences and fun foods, and there's time for the more nourishing foods. And as long as we kind of listen to our bodies, we can have both. I would say I probably was not listening to my body in college, and I paid for it. I remember being tired a lot, having stomach issues, and probably eating out and using a lot of my budget on food that was probably very pricey. So no, I was not listening to my body in college, but my undergraduate was at NC State, so here in Raleigh, and my master's degree was at Meredith College, also here in Raleigh. And I took some classes here at Wake Tech trying to get into graduate school because it is so affordable and wonderful, but also very challenging. I took chemistry on this very campus about 8 years ago, so I have a very much of an affinity for Wake Tech.
Great. So what is it that clicked to you to say, I need to go into nutrition?
Yeah, so completely off my radar in undergrad. So I was a communications major. I worked for the Raleigh Chamber of Commerce right out of school, and then was a stay-at-home mom. And it really was just my personal journey with food that made me fall in love with the fact that food can make you feel so much better. I'd had stomach issues my entire life, and then just raising kids. I had probably about a 1-year-old and a 4-year-old when it really decided I wanted to go back to school, when I started taking classes here, and just seeing how challenging it was to feed them, but kind of seeing how much better I felt when I ate in a certain way, and really just the power of nutrition. And so I started reading about it and loving reading about it and loving how I started to feel. And so people started asking me for advice. But I realized that I really wanted to get the actual information before I started giving advice. And so I did some research and found out that I needed to go to school and be a registered dietitian, which was not an easy road. It was prerequisites in grad school and then a 1-year post-grad internship, unpaid. So it was quite the journey. You had to really want it. And I love my life now getting to do stuff like this. So it was totally worth it.
I am happy you took that journey because that's why we have you here.
That's right.
I should also point out that this is going to be a 3-segment section. As we go through the process, I'm going to ask Miss Wendy to help us with breakfast, lunch, and dinner, right? So let's get right into breakfast.
Okay.
I am terrible when it comes to breakfast. Let me just put that out there. So I know you do have some plans for us for some breakfast ideas. When I was in college, my typical breakfast, and we'll start with cereals.
Okay.
What's a good cereal? What's a bad cereal? Would you recommend it for breakfast?
Okay. And that is, I really believe in meeting people where they are and being realistic, even though maybe I don't eat cereal now as my breakfast. I certainly did in college. I understand you want to sleep as late as you possibly can, have something cheap, and get out the door quickly. And so cereal can be a good option. I just would look for cereals that have some protein and fiber in them. And so I think things like the cereals from Kashi offer some good options, Fiber One, and recognizing that those might not taste the best, you could kind of mix it and sprinkle it in with whatever your favorite is. I also would recommend Fairlife milk because Fairlife milk has a really good amount of protein in it. And so if your cereal isn't going to have any protein, at least you can kind of fill your belly with that milk. So I always recommend that to my clients who have cereal for breakfast.
What about hot cereal, oatmeal?
Okay. Yeah, oatmeal is great. So oatmeal is going to have a little bit more protein. It naturally has some fiber. I think oatmeal is a great option. And this is not something college students would have to worry about, but maybe you and I think about. Oatmeal is also great for cholesterol. So it's something that I recommend to people watching their cholesterol or people who just want something kind of quick. Even better if you top it with like some slivered nuts or maybe some berries or diced apple and kind of beef it up a little bit to add some fiber and nutrients. But oatmeal can be a really good option.
Okay. My other breakfast option is hot chocolate and bread. I love bread. And I grew up in a bakery, so maybe that doesn't help.
Oh my gosh, lucky you.
I love bread. So let's talk about the drinks, some suggestions on good beverages for breakfast. Hot chocolate, orange juice, I think are those two.
Okay.
What would you recommend? And then we'll get to the breads.
Yeah. So first and foremost, my preference and what I think is healthiest is to have a big glass of water when you first wake up. If you think about it, we haven't had anything to drink since the night before, maybe one little sip during the night, but you actually wake up a little bit dehydrated, whether you realize it or not. And things like coffee, anything with caffeine in it is dehydrating. It's a diuretic. So it actually exacerbates your dehydration rather than adding to it. And really anything other than water is not exactly what we need right in that moment. So have some water, have maybe 8 ounces of water. Beyond that, have no problem with orange juice, great source of vitamin C, which we all need right now this time of year especially. Hot chocolate, if you use some Fairlife milk, get some protein in there. I don't really have a problem with that. As I say, everything in moderation. Don't drink it all day. Make sure you're getting some water in there. But pairing that with bread only might not be the most filling breakfast.
Okay, what if I add eggs?
Adding eggs would be great, yeah. So you're going to hear me say protein a lot. That's something that I think, especially in college and younger kids, kind of forget. They kind of gravitate towards some of the more carb-based things, which is fine, but we just want to pair it with protein. Protein is what fills us up, gives us a little bit more sustained energy. Yeah. So having the hot chocolate, the bread, and some eggs would balance things out really well. And then in my view, the only thing you're missing is a little bit of fiber. So maybe grabbing an orange or an apple or something like that.
What's a good bread? Okay.
I always look for at least 2 grams of fiber per slice. And I know that's very specific, but the bread aisle can be very overwhelming. So, and also very misleading. So there's nobody monitoring the health claims that they put on bread. So it'll say, honey wheat, all natural, blah, 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 all these words that kind of sound good, but really they're not beholden to anything if you turn it over and look at the ingredient list. So look for whole wheat flour to be the first ingredient. And then look for about 2 grams or more of fiber per slice, and then you're getting a little bit of nutrients along with the bread. But all that to say, every once in a while, like a really good piece of white bread with some butter on it, nothing wrong with that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. What's a good time to have breakfast?
So from a blood sugar regulation standpoint, energy regulation standpoint, the best thing that we can do for our bodies is eat within an hour or 2 of waking up. 2 is really kind of pushing it. So by that point, we have fasted all night, right? So our blood sugar is starting to go down, regardless of how great of a dinner we had the night before. Our blood sugar is starting to go down. If we don't eat and we get up and we start moving around and we start using what little bit of energy we have left, our blood sugar is going to go down, 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 down. And then if we don't feed our bodies, our liver is actually going to release some glycogen, which then turns into glucose, spikes our blood sugar. and that's not good. So that can cause not only just short term can it cause sort of an energy spike and then a crash, but long term that's not great for our blood sugar and can lead to things like diabetes.
So when I wake up at 6, I should be having breakfast by 8.
Yes, that would be ideal. Yeah.
Okay. When I wake up and I work out, should I be having breakfast earlier or still 2 hours? It's okay.
Are you working out right when you wake up, or?
Correct. So I wake up at 6. Let's say I work out for about an hour.
Yeah.
That takes me to 7. Should I be having breakfast at 8 from the time I woke up, or should I be having 2 hours from when I worked out? Yeah.
I see what you're saying. And I do the same thing. So I work out first thing in the morning, and that's completely fine. I don't think you need to eat before that by any means. Still going ahead and eating within 2 hours of waking would be ideal. And then for working out, if you're doing something like lifting weights, you've torn apart your muscles, right? Even running. And your muscles, your protein is trying to rebuild. So your muscles have been torn apart, and this is what leads to muscle soreness. So having some protein within 30 minutes, there's a 30-minute window where your muscle fibers are really working hard and they're still kind of energized. They're trying to rebuild. So for toning and muscle definition and to alleviate soreness, some protein within about 30 minutes of that workout would be ideal for those factors. Still, if it's not until 8 or so that you eat, but you really will have used what little bit you have to work out. And again, I said I do the same thing. If it's not always possible for me to eat right away, so I'll have like a banana with a little bit of nuts, and then maybe have my actual breakfast an hour or two later.
I was just going to ask you about fruits and breakfast. So what are some of the fruits you will recommend for breakfast?
Really, any fruit.
Any fruits.
Yep. If you like fruit, whatever fruits you gravitate towards. Things like berries are the highest fiber, lowest sugar, but especially for college students, I don't want them to worry about that kind of thing. I just want them to have some fruit. Yeah, just colorful, whole foods as much as possible. And, for a budget, things like apples and grapes and bananas are going to be a lot cheaper. So just keep those around.
Right. So what you're saying is no Pop-Tarts for breakfast?
I did Pop-Tarts in college too. When you said that, I thought that was so funny because I had the cinnamon Pop-Tarts with a little bit of butter every morning before class, and then couldn't figure out why I was starving during class, because that is a processed carbohydrate, which is fine to have in our diets, but we need to have some protein with it. That is used and is gone so quickly in our bodies. And so it just is not a sustainable source of energy.
All right. Last one, yogurts.
Yeah. That's actually what I eat for breakfast every day. Greek yogurt is better because it has a lot more protein in it. It's been strained and it's sort of the concentrated version of the regular yogurt. And, just kind of keeping an eye on what's in it. Sometimes yogurt can almost go more towards like a dessert with like the flips and the thing like that. But again, college students should enjoy life and eat their flips yogurts. But just having some Greek yogurt with a little bit of fruit could be a perfectly balanced breakfast. Yeah.
Nice. All right. So I must admit, my kids love Chick-fil-A breakfast. They love their little egg biscuits. Most students think it's the easiest way to drive by McDonald's and grab some quick breakfast.
Right.
What suggestion or advice do you have for myself and our students who do? Is it okay to do it once in a while? Is it not okay to do it?
Yeah. As you can tell, I'm really all about balance, and I don't ever put anything on the never list. Because as soon as we do that, it kind of gives that food power, right? So we don't want that.
I like that. I like it that you said giving the food power.
So, and I think there's also a quality of life component. And so I think it doesn't need to be every day, but if it is like once a week and it's something you can enjoy, but the rest of the time we're making our meals at home, because again, the budget kind of comes into it. If we're doing that, 2 or 3 times a day, every week, it's going to get quite expensive. But the thing about Chick-fil-A is you're going to have some protein. So, I always advocate for having something over nothing. Meal skipping to me is the worst possible option. And so you go get your Chick-fil-A sandwich that has some nice protein, and you're able to, go to class and actually pay attention. So
sounds good.
Moderation.
All right. So before we wrap up on the breakfast discussion here, we're going to be fixing some breakfast. Tell us a little bit about it and why you think those, again, we're looking at saving money and also eating very healthy.
Nourishing.
Right, nourishing. So tell us about the breakfast that we're going to be fixing
Okay.
in a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah. So everything I picked today, I really had the college students in mind. I wanted it to be cheap and quick, but also delicious. And so probably the more complicated thing we're going to do is make something called egg bites or egg muffins. And this is something you can now get like at Starbucks and some of the other restaurants. So they might have had some familiarity with it. But they're just really easy, and they're a good dose of protein. As I said, I always look for protein, some kind of fiber, and a little bit of fat. We always want to have fat too. And so the egg bites are basically just going to take a muffin tin, and each little hole gets some egg, some cheese, and some diced up spinach. But this is really customizable for your like. So if you don't like spinach and you want to substitute some sausage or bacon or something like that. And then on the other side of that, just really easy, if we have no time and we're thinking about getting the Pop-Tart out, we're going to do toast 3 ways. So you can get yourself some nice bread like you were talking about, and we're going to make avocado toast, peanut butter toast, and cheese toast. I mean, super simple, but I do this for my kids all the time when we get in a bind, especially the cheese toast. Almost kind of tastes like pizza. We'll even sometimes put some oregano or garlic on there. Just really easy, but has those components of fat, fiber, and protein, especially if you grab an orange on the way out the door with it.
Wendy, I think we're all set with breakfast.
Yeah.
That's great. Great suggestions, great. So we're in the kitchen. Again, we're talking about all the different meals, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Wendy's going to show us how to prepare a couple of those. We're going to start with breakfast. So what are you doing, Wendy?
Here we are. Okay, we've already gotten started a little bit. As we talked about before, we always want to have protein at breakfast, and eggs are a great way to get some protein. So we're going to make something called egg muffins. Which literally is just using a muffin tin, and the entire muffin is egg. And you can be really creative with whatever ingredients you want to put in here. We're going to do cheese and spinach to get us a little bit of the fiber that I talked about, and some nutrients to keep us really rocking for the rest of the day. But you could put any kind of breakfast meat in there. You could put deli meat. You could put bacon. So we've already cracked some of the eggs in here. The recipe that we're using is you do all 12 eggs. So you can fill up the full tin, but you could also do a half dozen. So you just mix all of your eggs together, and we're also going to include some fresh spinach as well as a little bit of shredded cheese. So get you even more protein, get you some calcium. And so we have a nice big container of fresh spinach here. We're actually going to use this in several recipes, and so I really like to buy things that you can buy in bulk and then use throughout the entire week rather than just one meal. And so this recipe calls for a cup of spinach and chopped. So I'm just going to kind of eyeball that, but you would measure it out in a cup. And then being very careful with fingers, just give it a little bit of a rough chop. Spinach cooks down a ton, and so you really won't even taste it in the egg bite. So it's a great way to kind of sneak in some veggies. I'm going to add just a little bit more here. And if you like spinach, you can leave it a little bit bigger if you don't mind seeing it in there. But if you're doing this for kids and it needs to look more like some parsley or oregano, you can chop it up a little bit more fine. Your kids like spinach?
If they don't know what it is, they haven't. So
Yeah.
yes.
There we go.
Good.
So that would be more of the rough chop, right?
Right.
Okay. So get it nice and chopped up if we're making it for littles, and then throw it in with your eggs. And then we're also going to add some cheese, because who doesn't love some good sharp cheddar cheese? So we use sharp cheddar, so it'll really add to the flavor. The recipe calls for about a half cup. We're just eyeballing it here today, but you could get out your cup measure. And then really, really important is salt and pepper. This is what's going to bring out the flavor of everything else. Let's see. I think the recipe calls for salt and pepper to taste. And so you just put as much as you like in there. My family is a big salt fan, so we're going to add a lot.
So salt's good or not good? That's what I've been hearing.
Yeah, you kind of hear good things and bad things, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So sodium is really important. It's an electrolyte. We need it every single day. If you get low on sodium, you'll notice headaches and fatigue and muscle cramping. Salt is also the thing that makes food taste better. It's just a flavor enhancer for a lot of things. So we don't want to skip it completely. There is a lot of research to show that too high of salt intake can increase blood pressure. But really, that is in processed food. So very infrequently is it table salt that is the culprit there. It is, if you look at any kind of food in a box or a bag and you look at the total sodium, it usually is very, very high. If you're cooking at home, you're usually probably not adding too much salt. So don't skip it, because it is really a flavor enhancer. So once all the yolks are fully beat, you can consider that nice and mixed. I prefer to then pour it into a pitcher like this to get it into the muffin tin. So try to do that without spilling it all over the countertop.
Good job.
And then this is, rather than a metal muffin tin, I ordered this on Amazon for $7.99, and it makes it so that the egg bites don't just stick to the muffin tin. I used an inordinate amount of olive oil or bacon or any kind of degreaser with the metal muffin tin, and the eggs would still stick to the muffin tin. So if you're gonna try these at home, I highly recommend one of these silicone ones, because they just pop right out. You don't even have to put cooking spray in there. So you just pour a little bit in each one and then pop it in the oven. And I'm not, for the sake of time, I won't pour all those in, but those just go in the oven. The recipe that we're using, 350 degrees for about 20 minutes, and it's good to go. The great thing about these too is that you can go ahead and make all 12 like on a Sunday, and then you can pull them out over the course of the week and pop it in the toaster oven for a minute or two, and it's ready to go. So you don't have to eat all of them right at that time.
Can I still have my egg bites with bread?
Yes, you can have your egg bites with bread.
Thank you.
Yeah,
yes.
Absolutely. I think that would be a lovely breakfast, but that would give you your protein and a little bit of fiber with your bread.
Perfect.
Yeah. So speaking of bread,
yes.
we're going to move on to our second breakfast idea, which is toast 3 ways. You had the great question earlier about what makes a good type of bread, and you've done a beautiful job getting this set up here with this Arnold's 100% whole wheat. Again, looking for 2 grams of fiber per slice. This has 3 grams of fiber per slice. So I'm just going to grab one of these plates back here. And this is, just being totally realistic about the time that we have in the morning as a college student, just realizing that sometimes it is very tempting to just skip breakfast. As I said before, it's always better to eat. And so if you have a nice loaf of bread, here are 3 options of things you can do to get that fat, fiber, and protein combination and head out the door. Maybe eat this in the car on your way to campus. So first is avocado toast. So this is sort of the bougie version of breakfast toast. You might have seen this on menus around places. It's gaining popularity, and there's a lot of variations of this. This is just sort of the very plain way to do it. Is just to get a good avocado. This one's a little bit brown, but that doesn't mean that it's not still going to taste good. Oh. And
so that's a good point, because I would be throwing this away, but it's still okay, right?
Yeah, you never know.
Okay.
You might have to do the taste test on it. Okay. We could actually try cutting another one of them and seeing if one of them looks a little bit better. Okay. Yeah, this one feels a little bit firmer. Let's see how this one looks. So cut the avocado and...
It's kind of the same.
Yes.
Right.
Let's see if we're going to have one that we can use today. We can always do toast 2 ways.
Okay. Okay. I'm happy we have options.
Yes, so we do have options. Okay. This one might have some salvageable parts. They're so expensive that you would hate to just throw all of them away. And so I would try to kind of cut around it and see if you can find something that you can use. Yeah, I don't know about that. We might have a total bust bag of avocados here.
Sure. So if we were to have some good avocados,
right.
we will put them on here.
Yes, we would spread them out and have a lovely piece of avocado toast.
Okay.
Yeah, all those, no good.
No good. We know you're trying to save money, but this is definitely no good.
Right, and we don't want to get sick or have it. It's not even that, but just doesn't taste very good. But I'll just demo it with the piece that looks okay. So you would toast the bread first, and then just the good thing about them being slightly soft is that you can spread them a little bit better. And avocados have a ton of healthy fat. So having that first thing in the morning, they also have omega-3s. This will really fuel your day, give you some good brain power. My preference is to sprinkle a little bit of garlic powder, maybe some crushed red pepper and some sea salt on that, and it's absolutely delicious if we get a good avocado. So maybe when you're buying avocados, look for ones that are a little bit more firm, and then let them ripen a little bit on the countertop, maybe for a day or so. We don't want ones that are already soft to the touch when we buy them. Okay, so let's move on to two that are even easier than that. Cheese toast and peanut butter toast. So these are things that you can easily keep around all the time. You have your nice loaf of whole wheat bread, and again, maybe you've slept in, you're running out the door, but you remember, oh, I should have something with some protein in it. Cheese is a great source of protein, quick and easy, assuming that you can tolerate it well. And this is literally all I do. My kids will have this for breakfast a couple days a week. Is just sprinkle a good amount of cheese on the toast. And then if you want to get fancy, again, you can add some garlic powder, some salt and pepper, whatever seasonings they might like. Literally just throw that into the toaster oven.
So why sharp cheddar though?
Just more flavorful.
Okay.
There's nothing nutritionally. So if
Okay.
your kids are like, I need mild cheddar or mozzarella or anything, there's nothing nutritionally superior about that. This is just what my family prefers, and it has a little bit more flavor. So this would be, throw this into the toaster oven and then have this with one of these lovely oranges right here, and you've got your fat, fiber, and protein breakfast, and you can make it through the morning. So really easy.
Yeah.
Again, trying to keep in mind what kind of budget college students are working with. And last but not least, peanut butter, which is going to make an appearance again later. But literally, same concept. You can toast it or not, and then just get a good serving of peanut butter and put it on toast. So peanut butter toast, almond butter toast, any kind of nut butter toast is a great way to start the day. Again, the fat and the protein in the peanut butter will keep you full longer, and then the carbohydrate from the toast will be your quick source of energy first thing in the morning. So nothing fancy here, but just, maybe a little bit better than a Pop-Tart, but just a good way to make sure you get something in your belly before you go to class, and have an orange with it too.
Thank you, Wendy. So on the peanut butter, I see some bananas here. Could you slice some bananas and put it on your?
Yes, that would be
peanut butter?
awesome. That's
Okay.
actually something we were going to do for lunch, but it can also be breakfast.
Okay, I'm skipping to lunch.
No,
very
you're
quickly, so
good.
that's
Yeah, that's
All
a
right.
good thought. So those are my breakfast ideas.
Great. So to recap on the breakfast ideas, we had the egg bites, we had the avocado.
Yes.
So that's toast 3 ways.
Toast 3 ways.
Okay.
Yeah.
So cheese, avocado, and peanut butter.
Right. Yes. Easy and quick, but still balanced.
Great. You ready for lunch?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay.
Okay.